Jett Luchanko officially does make the Philadelphia Flyers opening night roster. Flyers general manager Daniel Briere finally speaks on the Alexei Kolosov situation, and the coaches and players, at long last, are working on the power play in anticipation of the start of the season. I'm Charlie O'Connor of the PHLY Sports, and these are your Flyers post-practice notes. So we'll begin with the big story of the day, which really isn't a news story because we pretty much knew it on Friday, but the Flyers, in anticipation of the 5 p.m. roster deadline for the NHL, released their 23-man roster for the start of the season this morning. And it did include one 18-year-old Jett Luchanko. That's right, Jett Luchanko, the Flyers' first-round pick back in June of this year, is indeed making the team out of camp. Daniel Briere, the Flyers general manager, spoke with the media today about camp, but obviously the big story was Luchanko, so he answered a lot of questions on the decision to put the rookie on the team. He said he's blown us away from day one. Briere forcefully made the case for why Luchanko deserved to be on the roster. John Tortorella did the same about 1 or 2 hours later when we spoke with him after practice. Really, this was the full court press from the Flyers explaining why they believe Jett Luchanko should be on the team, at least to start. There will be more on PHLY, allphly.com in the coming hours, but just know for now, Jett Luchanko is a Philadelphia Flyer. That said, neither Briere nor Tortorella would guarantee that Luchanko is necessarily on the team for the full season. Now, as a player who has signed his entry-level contract but could go back to junior hockey, the 9-game audition remains a possibility. He will be able to play 9 games before the first year of his entry-level contract is officially burned. So that is sort of what I would call the deadline. Now, they could send him back later. They did that with Lucas Spiza years ago, another guy who made the team out of camp just after being drafted. He played quite a few more games than 9, was ultimately sent back to juniors, but that first year was burned. It does seem like with Luchanko that they're going to be paying close attention over these first few games to see if they believe he should stay the full year. But they're going to give him a long look. It's not like Luchanko is getting buried deep in the lineup. He's only going to be getting 8-9 minutes a night. No, he's going to start out the year, it appears, on a scoring line with Joel Farabee and Bobby Brink. Now, it's line 3, let's say, in the hierarchy of the lines right now. But as John Tortorella mentioned today, hey, if that line ends up being their best line, it might get first-line minutes. That'll be decided by how well the team plays. So he's going to get good line mates, guys who can score, guys with some talent, guys in Farabee and Brink who have shown chemistry together. So it's a decent spot for him. In addition, he's going to start out the season on the power play. Second unit, not the one with Mishkov, but still power play time. And Tortorella also confirmed that Luchanko will get some time on the penalty kill as well. So he's going to get a real audition, it appears, as an all-situations player. And the Flyers are going to just evaluate him and see what they have and see if they want to keep him the full year. Briere also spoke on the other big story of camp, the late arrival of one Alexei Kolosov. Now, Kolosov obviously did not show up for the start of camp, then came a bit later. Now he has been sent to the AHL, to the Lehigh Valley Phantoms at the end of this camp. He actually played in his first preseason game for the Phantoms on Saturday, looked very good doing it. Apparently, Briere and the entire Flyers brain trust was there for that game. But what we didn't have were details about why Kolosov ultimately decided to change his mind, if the two sides came to some sort of agreement that convinced him to kind of end his holdout. Because really what this all boiled down to was Kolosov wanted to stay in the KHL, at least for one more year, if he wasn't being guaranteed an NHL job. Well, he wasn't guaranteed an NHL job, and he's here. So what happened? That's what we wanted to ask Danny Briere today, and that's what he spoke on. So what is the situation per Briere? Let's just say it's fluid. Briere said, look, he's in the AHL now. We're happy. We think that's good for his development. He might end up getting some time with the Flyers. Injury, if somebody struggles. There are a lot of scenarios here. But notably, Briere did not rule out the possibility that at some point down the road this season, after they've gotten some time to watch him develop him a bit in the AHL, if there's no clear NHL spot available, he did not rule out the possibility of maybe loaning him back to the KHL at some point during the year. So it appears that everything remains on the table for Kolosov. Props to Danny Briere and the Flyers for getting him over here, but it doesn't seem like this saga is necessarily fully resolved. It looks like there's still a lot up in the air as to the way that Alexei Kolosov's season might play out. The good news is that they do feel like, the Flyers feel like, they have a good support system in place for Kolosov this time. Probably a better support system than the one he had when he came over for his brief 5-6 week time at the end of last season. Danny Briere mentioned that Rodrigo Abols, who was sent down with those final cuts, he knows Russian. So he has a fellow Russian speaker on the Phantoms, at least for now. He also said that the team took Alexei Kolosov out for some fun this weekend. So clearly Kolosov is making the effort to try to be more social than he was the first time around. Briere didn't ask questions about what they did, but he said it was a good sign that Kolosov is maybe integrating himself a bit better this time around with his teammates. Hopefully this goes well, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Finally, there was a practice today. This is, I guess, the first actual practice of the season that didn't count as part of training camp, because training camp officially ended on Friday. So the Flyers did something today that they had not yet done really in a serious way thus far in camp. They practiced the power play. That's right, the power play, the 32nd power play in the league last year. Dead last, 12%, one of the biggest reasons they didn't make the playoffs. The Flyers had mostly been focusing on 5-on-5 play when they were doing their systems work last week. Today, it was power play time. And that meant we also got a look at the power play units that it appears they are going to start the season with. Top unit, unsurprisingly, Matvei Michkov is on it. He is the hope of the way that they're going to fix the power play. The hope is that his skill will add an element that was sorely missed last year. But with Michkov on that top unit, you have Travis Konechny, unsurprisingly. You've got Morgan Frost, you have Owen Tippett, and you have a healthy Jamie Drysdale. So that is Unit 1, at least to begin the year. As for the second unit, I mentioned earlier, Jett Luchanko is indeed getting power play time, but he's going to be surrounded by veterans, or at least guys with significant NHL experience. It's actually a pretty young unit. You have Joel Farabee, understandable, also Tyson Forrester, also Bobby Brink, and then Yegor Zamula. So that is your second unit, at least to start the year. One notable absence on the power play, at least to start, Sean Couturier is not on the power play, at least not in that first 10 group. We'll see what happens as the year progresses. Now, the Flyers know their power play has to get better. If they want a chance to make the playoffs, last year the power play was probably the biggest reason, that and I guess the end-of-season goaltending, as to why they did not make the playoffs. They were unable to come through in the end. Danny Briere today did speak a bit on the power play. He said, look, he's not expecting them to jump into the top 5, the top 10, maybe not even the top 15. But he noted that he wants significant improvement. He said that, hey, even if their power play last year was ranked 22nd rather than 32nd, they very well might have made the playoffs. So it looks like we're looking for improvement from the Flyers' power play, certainly the front offices, but Briere wanted to temper expectations a little bit that they could make a 6, 7, 8 percentage point jump in terms of efficiency and still be in the back half of the league. The hope, though, is that they make some sort of improvement, and that'll be on assistant coach Rocky Thompson and the rest of the collaborative group that includes guys like Patrick Sharp, John LeClaire, and Danny Briere himself, all guys who excelled on the power play as players. The Flyers will have one more practice on Tuesday morning. It's an early one because then they're hopping on a flight and flying out west for their season-opening road trip, which will begin on Friday in Vancouver, then Saturday in Calgary, and they just keep on going. It's a 4-gamer. So one more practice before they leave Voorhees for about a week and a half, and then the season begins. I'm Charlie O'Connor with PHLY Sports. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
We all silly like the mayor.